Welcome to the Nutrimedical Report Live, and believe it or not, because of my mobile access, I'm up here in Portland visiting my beautiful little granddaughter, Matilda, and she is wonderful. I'll tell you, my wife is enraptured. I know that the bonding hormones are fully operational, the oxytocin, and interestingly, because I'm very interested in neurology, and I found out that, believe it or not, the same bonding hormones that bond a mother to a baby and even grandparents to their grandchildren are the same bonding hormones that make a cohesiveness of a military operations group. And I did a study in the U.S. military and found out that the oxytocin levels of males and females, if they're in specific military operations and tight self-protective groups, they're very, very similar to a mother bonded to their baby. Isn't that interesting, Clay?
Yeah, where did you read that?
That was in medical journals a couple of years ago. It's all the research has pretty well confirmed it too. So, in fact, if you wanted to determine if someone is well bonded to their group, it should be one of the almost criteria. If you go into an area of great danger, so they'll be self-protective of each other, you want to make sure that all your compatriots have high oxytocin levels when they're in what we call intense operations, even in simulation. Interesting, eh? So there's a lot of neurophysiology. The way we have to look at the body, although it's a miraculous wonder made by the Most High God, is we have to look at it as a miraculous instrument that is, in a sense, a plasma supercomputer. And if you think of your body as 100 plus billion cells, each cell being a nonlinear parallel processing a quantum computer using the light frequencies of vibrational frequencies of biological molecules through the cell membranes, and I like to use the word MEM-brain, B-R-A-I-N. When we look at the body, we're trying to make the body work better. We have to realize that a lot of the theories of what aging is and what disease is are really pretty wrong-headed. The reason why we have developed a Nutrimeds line in our newer diagnostic technologies, such as the QRMA and the bioplasm, and our latest incarnation called the 8D-LRIS, functional medicine testing and labs where people can even order the tests themselves. I just direct them as to which tests to do. Genetic tests like 23andMe, and then Prometheus that can pull up all the databases in the world in every language and cross-check specific gene complexes for specific illnesses, is we can now fix you. We can actually fix the underlying problem long before you get symptoms. Symptom-based medicine, we call signs and symptoms, is useful, but it's only a small part of the picture. When you can look at the reason why someone is ill. For example, if someone is taking diuretics, they're going to lose minerals. So if the enamel in their teeth are breaking off or their teeth are starting to shatter, it could be a sign that there's demineralization occurring. When you're giving other specific drugs that doctors give, typically like serotonin reuptake inhibitors, they're not fixing depression. They're covering up the symptoms because they're just blocking the reuptake in the synapse of the 5-HTP receptor, where it's destroyed. So then your synaptic level of serotonin goes up, but doesn't fix the problem. The problem is not a synaptic serotonin deficiency, it's an imbalance of neurotransmitters in your whole nervous system. So we can fix those. And it's interesting, I had a gentleman, I'm going to just mention his first name, Peter, from New South Wales, who wanted me to visit with Dr. Bartram and others. They want to, quote, replicate what we do elsewhere in the world. We're going to do it at our pace, but we will be expanding out Nutrimedical quite a bit in terms of diagnostic, mobile access, and lots of other operational things that we're going to start proposing this year. But I have to put, as I say, I have 100 ideas. 2 or 3 of them are probably really good. The other 98 probably should be shelved, and we'll see what happens. But some of the ones that are going to be done this year, number one, you're going to see a dramatic increase in the amount of information, the density of information on the wellness conditions. And we've clarified what we're doing there now. If you purchase even one product this year, you automatically get the access to the wellness conditions without having to purchase a membership. But if you're just planning on accessing the wellness conditions without buying any products, you have to pay for access. It's that simple. So if you buy one bottle of Nutridyne, you have access. It's important to understand that, so you don't think that you do have a membership as soon as you purchase a product this year. Next year it'll start all over again. You have to purchase a product in 2016 after January 1 to have a membership. If not, and you want to add wellness, there are other operations that we're going to have. We're also going to start cross-indexing all the audio files for the shows. So if you want to search a specific topic, it'll be present there. And we even have some individuals that are trying to pull together what they call the quips, in other words, specific questions and answers, and put them together as perhaps some CDs or audio files that we can send out to you. So those will be available too sometime in the next few months. You'll be getting some audio files that will be under our archive, under our other things such as our DVDs and talks. I want to start off with a couple of things that are important to understand. When we look at what aging is, it really is like an engineering principle, is a signal-to-noise problem. In other words, if you don't get rid of the toxins out of your body, and if you don't increase the level of the body's ability to create collagen, which is the superconductor of information, and you don't supply the basic minerals to activate the enzymes to rebuild your tissues, you can't regenerate anything. So let's start off with some of those principles. Some of my favorite detox are Keeler Max. Clay, can you tell us about Keeler Max and our chemical detox, which is xenoestrogen detox, and life support? Those three, I think, are the three biggies we should start with.
Well, absolutely. The xenoestrogen detox, how important is that, especially with all the estrogens that are floating around in our foods and in the plastics and things that we come in contact with every day. Our bodies are getting bombarded with that. So I think it is a foundational thing that everyone should be on, the xenoestrogen detox. And what's in it, you have a blend of all kinds of different vitamins and micronutrients, herbs that help support the body's detoxification processes surrounding estrogen. So you have the 5-tetrahydrofolate form of folate in there, selenium, you have calcium D-glucarate. Calcium D-glucarate, what that does, it helps decouple, get rid of beta-glucuronidase. Beta-glucuronidase decouples bound estrogen in the intestinal tract, but you need to get rid of beta-glucuronidase. One of the ways to do that is to take calcium D-glucarate. That's in there. You have green tea extract, alpha-lipoic acid, and acetylcysteine, which helps ALA and NAC help recycle glutathione in the body. You have milk thistle extract. You have DIM, which is from the isothiocyanate family, just like the sulfurylate glucosinolate, the broccoli and the cauliflower families. You have quercetin, which is a level 5 antioxidant. Turmeric, which helps with inflammation. You have trans-resveratrol and methylated resveratrol in there, both. You have the SGS from the broccoli in there. And then you also have the DHQ, or dihydroquercetin, which you talked about in length before, which is the preferred form of quercetin. And last but not least, the black pepper extract, which helps with the intestinal absorption of all of these nutrients, herbs, and vitamins. So really everything you need to help get rid of endogenous estrogen. What do you have to say about that, Doc?
Yeah, well, I think it's really important. I think one of the big things since primarily the Second World War is the number of new chemicals introducing to the biosphere. We had Dr. Ray on over the last many years, last 8-10 years, on the program. The founder of the of the Dallas Environmental Health Center, and Dr. Ray was a cardiac surgeon who got sick with anesthetics. So he was actually doing research, being also having background in biochemistry and himself. Went back and literally invented, to a great extent, the science of environmental medicine, along with several other scientists that were involved with founding the American Academy of Environmental Medicine. And what's happening is there's what's called estrogenization of the entire population. Now, in males, it reduces sperm count, it changes and rewires parts of the neural pathways in the brain, which I think is part of the reason for the rise of transgender and a rise of a much higher rate of homosexuality. I think also it tends to increase prostate cancer because the ergonogen, which is the tissue on the prostate, is actually the xenoestrogens lock onto the receptors 200 to 300 times more. In women, it causes breast cancer and other problems, and increases general cancer rates because of xenoestrogen effects on cancer growth. So you need to get these out of your body if you want to stay well as you get older. Get chronologically older, but physiologically, Nutrimedically younger. Back in a moment.
Hi, John Hubner from Midas Resources. Are you tired of watching your hard-earned assets dwindle away?
And welcome back. And so, Clay, we're talking about detoxification. The Keeler Max is very important, too. The other one that we use is Nutridefense, which I designed, has IP6 because I call it the iron time bomb. Heavy metals, which you got to pull out of your body, and everyone in society has them. The best screening test I tell people is the QRMA because it doesn't just measure your packed red cell level. It measures your body exposure to your actively growing tissues. Now, you can have iron and heavy metals sequestered away like heavy metals. And if, for example, you've had mercury amalgams and your QRMA test shows that your mercury is kind of lowish normal or almost normal, it indicates you've sequestered it away, especially if your teeth still show microvoltages. If you go to a biological dentist, and we'll be bringing on some biological dentists that are very highly qualified, the IOMT, the International Association of Biological Dentists, is you measure microvoltage across the teeth because the teeth act like a battery. And if you find 17 microvolts on a specific tooth amalgam surface after you scratch it, and I did the original research with Dr. Murray Vimy at the University of Calgary back 35 to 33 years ago, helping him work on his master's PhD. And by the way, I got a call from the College of Physicians and Surgeons, Dr. Roy Lariche, who's the registrar, warning me I shouldn't be working, quote, in association to help his researchers develop the protocol, which I told him it's already too late. I helped him. It's already done. And he was very threatening. The idea that how dare I use my biochemical knowledge as equivalent to PhD in biochemistry before I went into medicine and assist a dental pathologist to do his dental pathology degree and prove that mercury is not vitamin M. But, such is life. It's one of the reasons why Dr. Bill is Dr. Bill right now, and why every time I made an important breakthrough or assist other scientists or doctors to, or apply it from other doctors and scientists that have developed it, I've universally been persecuted. And I've just come to the idea of getting a thick skin and also becoming half a lawyer, which is what I am now. So I've taken training at Sunnybrook Medical Center and expert witnessing and medical legal work, and at some point I'm thinking about even picking up a law degree just so that I can really smack down these people even harder. Because to be honest with you, the medical profession is run by, as the words of O'Reilly, pinheads. And I still know that in the U.S. military they're still giving mercury amalgams to veterans, and they should threaten the Veterans Association, say, hey, what are you doing putting mercury, which is a toxin, in people's heads? It's ridiculous. So you want to pull up the free iron too. That's why males get in trouble, and females, after they stop their menses, start to accumulate what's called iron 3, a special form of oxidized iron. It oxidizes cholesterol and fatty acids, so the Nutridefense is good for removing that. We also have some neat things to protect your body, because you see, I call it, aging is what I call signal to noise. Signal means, do you have the right signals coming in? Do you have the right minerals? For example, if you don't mineralize your body, and that's why all of our vitamins, including Life Support, Ageless Energize, Vitamin Mineral Max, Minerals Plus, they're all trace amino acid chelated minerals. No other company does that. They all do inferior techniques. They've got minerals from the dead, from the bottom of some mine somewhere, or the Utah salt flats, or God knows where, or a deep mine. And they universally contain heavy metals. They don't have a trace amino acid chelate, protein chelate, so they're not going by a different transport system to bring that active mineral into the tissue. And then I always recommend that people take, on top of those, NDMEs to optimize their nucleoplasm and their intracellular mineral levels, because the very first step in anti-aging is remineralization. So let's talk about that for a minute. All of our drinks, all of our supplements are completely unique, and every single one of them is a final stage activated form of those vitamins and nutrients. So your body, even if it has a genetic defect or a toxic defect, we jump over it. We're when I get somebody that sends me, I'm in a big panic, I just got my genes back, I've got a polymorphism for such and such, I said, don't worry about it. If you take our Nutrimeds for the rest of your life, you're fine, because your body needs it because you have a gene defect. What do you think, Clay? Can you talk about that for a minute? Because I think it's something, when people get nutrients from elsewhere, they really are, wasting their money. And a lot of times they actually can get themselves toxic, because if they take, say, vitamin B6 that's not in its activated stage, they just take pyridoxal phosphate instead of the pyridoxal 5-phosphate, the special phosphorylated forms. They're going to get trouble. In fact, you can actually get toxic neuropathy. If you don't have adequate levels of fat-soluble B1, you can't correct Wernicke's encephalopathy in alcoholics, or protect the fetal brain development if a mother's giving breast milk, so they don't get sudden infant death syndrome. It's basically a vitamin B1 deficiency, but it has to be the fat-soluble form. That's been proven. So let's talk about that for a minute. We've got ultrathymine B1. We've got these activated minerals. Everything about Nutrimeds doesn't worry about, as I say, it's like an Italian driver, And the guy said, how come you never look in the rearview mirror? He said, what's behind me never matter. In other words, we don't care about what the genetic defect is or the other thing is, although it'll prove to you that you have to stay on the supplements forever to correct those specific problems, because they're always going to be there. And your diet, even if it was organic, is not going to supply enough nutrients, and your enzymes are going to have defects, and especially with the toxins in our environment that block those enzymes. So, Clay, when people are thinking in the 21st century, we have dioxins and dibenzofurans in everyone on Earth, including every animal in the biosphere. It blocks folic acid conversion. So if you're not the 25% of the population that has the gene defect, everybody else on Earth has the toxins in their body to block it too. So that's why Nutrimeds are not optional anymore. You can have the organic diet all you want, but if you don't take Nutrimeds, you cannot optimally express your genetics. Pretty important, isn't it?
It is, and you get the old adage, you get what you pay for. Well, that is so true when it comes to nutritional supplements. You walk into any of the big box retailers and you can grab fish oils off the shelf for a few bucks here and there, or magnesium or calcium, but what you're getting is just junk. Absolute junk. The cheapest forms you can buy. They're not body ready. They could actually make you sick if you take those, because the forms they're giving you aren't really forms that the human body can even absorb. These aren't the forms that are found in foods.
Right. Wow. Yeah, it's quite amazing, isn't it?
It is, and people don't know this stuff, so I'm glad that you're on the air educating everybody to the realities.
Well, we actually have a lot of doctors we consult worldwide. In fact, I've had a number of doctors and health professionals around the world that want to kind of replicate what we do. But we want to do it at our pace, and we want to do it the right way, for three reasons. The first reason, we want to do it so that we properly educate not just health providers, but the public, because they have to be proper consumers. We want to educate health providers to realize that we've never had a healthcare system. In fact, I would like to actually not even call it healthcare. Let me call it from now on what we do here at Nutrimedical, life care. We're bringing back years of life to you, so that although you may be chronologically 80, you can be 40 or 35. You don't have to be 80. You can reverse your age. It's bidirectional. If you support the body, it'll regenerate itself at any age and any organ, including your knee joints or your back or your ligaments, in your brain tissue, your liver, but you have to know what you're doing. When we come back, we'll take your questions to 800-259-5791. Call the studio with your health questions, 800-259-5791. Back in just a moment.
Don't complain about your cable bill going up and up and up. Do something about it.
And welcome back. And just kind of imagineering here. Just going to mention briefly, I envision the system that's seamless. It's like a Nutrimed Life app where you'd hit your iPhone or iPad. You'd have a, if you want to call it a mobile unit, let's say a bus that would come out that has a mild hyperbaric chamber and our 8-DLRIS, what's called biphotonic morphogenic field generator. It actually could help to stimulate a proper epigenesis of your genes. The QRMA and the 8-DLRS and the functional medicine could do urine, blood, stool, whatever analysis, blood draws, send them off for 23andMe. You'd have a database would be on the cloud that could be yours that you could access. And you could just press a button and it would automatically select which nutrients you needed at Nutrimeds, how soon you come back for a repeat test. You could just hit the phone app and they would come out to your home, business, whatever, and test you. And then it would also refer you to whether or not it was appropriate for you to see a specific medical doctor, surgeon, or do other types of things. It would integrate completely with other wellness. You can do this in any country. It would be very inexpensive to do it in China, Russia, India, or anywhere. And with the mobile units, you could actually provide care, not only mild hyperbaric oxygen, but a morphogenic field therapy. You'd specifically be able to ship directly from our shipping here in California. anywhere in the world, all our supplements. So this is what I see, what I call life care, and Nutrimedical life care van, if you want to call it, or a bus. It'll be these mobile units should be something that should be an everyday occurrence. And we've had a lot of people asking to replicate what I do. I think, well, that's what I envision, and we may need to partner with other people in other countries and health professionals to do so. But I'm willing to try to set that up and set up some kind of arrangement, because I believe that once we have the framework, other doctors and specialists will be able to put their input into that framework. Scientists, not only Dr. Nemtsov in Russia that developed the ADLRS, but others. And you can even test the efficacy in ADLRS of the specific nutrients against your biophotonic frequency pattern in your body. That's possible right now. So all of the things that I'm talking about, all the components are already available today in 2015. Pretty neat, hey?
Yeah.
Now, where we're going here, and the reason why NutriMeds are such a key part of it is it's the power of ones. And I like to use that because I talk about the spiritual side of this too. Your physical body is the portion of you, because you exist on 3 levels. You exist on the physical level, which is the lower 5 dimensions. You exist on the spiritual level, which is your mind or soul. They're interchangeable. Really, mind and soul are the same thing. And then there's the hyperdimensional portion of you that actually is a portion of God, because without the spark of God in you, you couldn't exist. And so on the physical body, in order for you to function as a proper healthy society, you have to have a healthy body. If you've got a diseased mind, heavy metal poisoning, for example, Dr. Alex Schuss 30 years ago, did research at the Biosocial Research Institute and found that people that have violent behavior of high level of manganese in their brain tissue. This is based on autopsies of brain tissue and actual analysis of packed red cell levels of manganese. So manganese toxicity is bad, and it could be enzymatic or other factors. Also, if you want to regenerate an organ or tissue, there's a number of factors. You have to have the proper nutrients present, and you have to have the extracellular matrix, the return of the mineralization to its optimal levels, which is why we add even external minerals like our Mg12 and indium, which is in the oldest populations on Earth. They all have indium in their diet, 100 times more people living 100 years. We have to have things to lengthen telomeres, and our answer to that is anti-age max, which includes activation of the SIRT1 gene and PGC1 alpha, along with Nutritrala and Supernox. So let's talk about telomeres. And by the way, what I found out recently too, longer telomeres also prevent you from genes sticking together and having what we call translocation of chunks of a chromatid, which is one of the arms of your chromosomes. So let's talk about anti-age max. This is very important. It prevents oxidation of cholesterol and the production of what's called 9-noronyl hydroxycholesterol, which is the bad stuff, that when a macrophage eats it, or big eater cell or monocyte, they die and form foam cells, which is the nidus of plaque. So when a cardiologist tells you they don't know what causes plaque, that's because they're biochemically ignorant of the fact that we know precisely what causes plaque, and we know how to stop it without drugs. So let's talk about anti-age max and Supernox and Nutritrala, because they also help to regenerate and resurrect your mitochondria, which is another step of anti-aging.
Yeah, the anti-age max is one of my favorites. It does include in there, you have quercetin, a level 5 antioxidant, and then you have 2 different forms of resveratrol. You have the quick-release form, which is the trans-resveratrol, and then you have the methylated form, or the control-release form, which is called terastildine. And so by giving the control-release or methylated form, it stays in the body longer, bathing the cells in the polyphenol resveratrol. As a result, there's a lot of different theories on how these polyphenols work, but what we've seen in research has shown that they actually irritate the cell a bit. Irritate it enough so that it activates the cell's gene transcription factors to tell the cell to repair itself, much the same way that exercise or calorie restriction activates these same gene transcription factors. You know, as you go into the gym and work out really hard, the next day you're sore. Well, it's because your body then is telling itself to repair itself. And we feel that, but when you take the polyphenols like terastildine or trans-resveratrol, you can't really feel that happening, but it is happening. What do you have to say about that?
Right. Yeah, exactly. And what's neat about it is if, and there's more advanced studies if you want to get real scientific about it, There's measures, for example, where one of my friends who had a biochemistry degree, and he was up as an internist and an intensivist in the intensive care unit in Aurora, Colorado, back in the 90s. And he invented a technique where you can measure with a nose clip a little portable device, which he miniaturized, that can measure your carbon dioxide output and your oxygen consumption. And he could determine, basically walking in the intensive care unit with little sterile clip changes, if you're going to live or die based on the number of METs that you're producing while you're laying there in the ICU. If the same thing goes with a thing called a bioimpedance meter, which I had in my office in Denver, a lot of we call functional medicine doctors, chiropractors, and naturopaths have. And you can attach the electrode to your right arm and your right leg, or left arm, left leg, and it measures your bioimpedance. It's basically measuring the charge, like measuring your battery on your cells, which is basically determined by the batteries in series. Every cell is like a battery in series, with the membranes, the potential across them being the mineral content across the cell membrane. So if you have enough potassium pumped in the cell, enough solid sodium pumped out of the cell, your body's going to have a good charge, a good bioimpedance, which means a lot of life force. And you can actually measure that in numbers. And as soon as you start increasing mitochondria, as soon as you start, protecting the telomeres at the end so you don't get translocation of genes, as soon as you start creating new mitochondria called mitochondriogenesis with nutriodine, this triad of supernox, anti-H max, and Nutricella. We have mitocarnitine, which is the glycine mitocarnitine. We have a new vascular form called VascuCare. We have a bowel form that's called IBS Care, that's a slow-release tablet. We have, of course, the most powerful CoQ10 in the world. No one else competes anywhere with us at all. That's why when we get premium nutraceuticals, it takes sometimes years for us to research to release it. It's the only non-crystallizing CoQ10, because when I used to have it custom made at a compounding pharmacy like Pencall Pharmacy in Denver, or College Pharmacy, they'd say it only is good for a few weeks because at the end of a month it's got no biological activity. Well, all of the other CoQ10s out there, basically within a matter of a month, have no biological activity because they crystallize. And when you hear also of them talking about lipoic acid, you want a slow release regular lipoic acid, because alpha R lipoic acid is very powerful, but it's extremely short lasting. It doesn't last long. It's 8 times more powerful, but it disappears almost immediately. So you want a slow release, which is why Nutricella is so important. So we have the technologies for you to reverse your physiological age, and this is really what I call not healthcare, but life care. Healthcare seems to be disease management. Let's change it up. Back in a minute. Your questions, 800-259-5791. Any health issues? Got some really interesting recent consults requests, and just to give you a couple of them, and then you can kind of comment on the components of the different nutraceuticals. I got a request from a lady here in San Diego County. Her first name is Amanda, and it was regarding a friend of hers at 65 that has leukemia. And he had apparently a problem with his blood work where he was having some strange things going on with his hemoglobin for years, and the doctors never investigated to find if he had biotoxins or a stealth pathogen triggering off, which eventually transformed into a very aggressive form of leukemia. They basically just sent him home, said, "We can't even do chemo on you because we'll just kill you on the table or in the chair." So he's kind of convalescing at home, waiting to see when his appointment with Jesus is, or whoever he believes in. So the first thing I'm going to recommend is you take Malignarest and Malignablock. And Malignarest will help to block the hexose monophosphate shunt, because cancer cells live as anaerobic cells. They've learned as survivors. Think of it as a prepper. Think of a cancer cell as a cell that's been so aggravated by the things that the government are doing, his previous employer's done. He's learned how to live on almost nothing, which is a cancer cell. He's learned how to protect himself from even being detected. And, of course, the genetics keep on being changed internally by the cancer cell to make sure it evades being not only found, because it covers itself with fibronectin, but it also shields itself from the immune system, and it causes more genetic changes and damage, so that if you start repairing the DNA, it can go back to a normal cell. So we give Malignarest, Malignablock, ellagic acid. We give MycoD2, which is oncomycin made from 5 different strains of mushrooms that will help with ergothioneine to repair the cell to go back to normal. MyCell D3. Most cancers, believe it or not, they grow in a person that has abysmally low D3 levels. Just like if you have low D3, you're just a sitting duck for Ebola or any virus. If you get real high levels of D3, get high levels of selenium so your body can create superoxide anion radical, Just those two things alone make a huge difference. That's our Minerals Plus and our Mycel D3. Then vitamin C, Power C. I'm going to start off this gentleman on Power C, at least 6 capsules 3 times a day. And for every 3 capsules, I'm going to give him a full vitamin K2 methaquinone 7. I put this on my cancer protocol. And if I get someone into that alkaline state, those cancer cells go, they can't pull any nutrients in. You get a cancer cell in a very alkaline state, it doesn't know what the heck to do. It's just paralyzed.
Hello, we're back. I guess we lost our connection there for a minute. Clay, can you hear me, Clay?
Yes, I'm here. Mm-hmm.
Good. So, so I was talking about the idea of how important it is for us to use the most powerful nutraceuticals. For example, our CoQ10 is the only one that doesn't crystallize in the world, and our CoQ10 ubiquinol is a long-acting form. Most people don't realize cellular energetics are extremely important for health. For example, when you look at someone with hypertension, it basically is their heart trying to compensate for lack of energetics of the mitochondria and their blood vessel walls. That's what hypertension is, if you want to boil it down. When you look at dementia, it's basically we call type 3 diabetes, where the energetics of the astrocytes is changing. So it's switching to using the hexose monophosphate shunt, which is sugar metabolism and anaerobic glycolysis. And that's why medium-chain triglycerides work well for people that have dementia. But if you start to use CoQ10, if you use Cognition Plus, if you start using...
Is that why you recommend the coconut pure, a couple spoonfuls a day for those folks?
Yeah, and I recommend that even younger people should be not drinking milk. They should be drinking basically the combination of what I call Califia, which is almond coconut milk. The almond acts as a good methyl donor, and the coconut is medium-chain triglycerides. You're going to get much better effects. So it makes a big difference when you approach it in the kind of what I call a scientific way where we combine the best of East and West. But because we have science now, we can, and we have the most advanced nutraceuticals, we can make well conditions or minimize the use of drugs. Or if you take a drug for a particular condition, for example, I tell people if in the early stages of trying to fix the underlying cause of hypertension, and you need to start taking more magnesium, it's going to take you 3 to 6 months to get your magnesium levels and your total body tissues back to normal. It doesn't happen in 2 weeks. A lot of people are impatient. They expect that the results are going to be instant. Some things are pretty fast. For example, for depression, we can correct that pretty fast, can't we?
Mm-hmm.
And I like to use, let's go through some of the combinations we use for depression. We use things like Calm Mind and 1 scoop of Calm Mind and 1 scoop of Brain Mag 4 times a day. You can increase the dosage if you have to tighten it up for anxiety, depression, autism, and other problems where a person is having, sleep disorders. But that works fantastically. And then we have melatonin TR at bedtime, which is a time release, 1 milligram immediate and 4 milligrams time release. That combination is amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And I'd also add in Sam-methyl. And then that's the SAMe with trimethylglycine. And that trimethylglycine helps to recycle the SAMe, so it's a real potent 1-2 punch.
Well, in fact, the full combination is the SAMe, superfolate, pyromethyl B12, and BioLVR is what I call the starting step. Because the BioLVR is nice because it has the activated B6 as well, which helps neurotransmitter conversion. It has the B12 and the folic acid in their converted forms. So, in fact, it's even better. Our B12 is better than even the injectable form, which is usually methylcobalamin or some other form. It's not methylcobalamin, but cyanocobalamin, so the body has to convert it, or hydroxycobalamin. And this is because the methylated form is the final stage the body needs to use. So if you put a sublingual tablet, it's actually better than the injection. I had somebody a few weeks ago asking about that. The other big issues we see are people that don't realize they're getting osteoporosis. They've got bone pain and bone aches. They don't realize that they did a low-resolution, low-intensity X-ray of, say, the lower legs. And they may be physically active. We can see this often in females that are running. And they'll say, my legs are hurting, I got compartment syndrome. And you do we call low-intensity X-ray of their legs, and you actually see cracks all along it. They've actually got osteopenia and cracks. And I just had a lady who I spoke to yesterday who said she delivered an 8-pound, 3-ounce baby, and her pelvis broke with the baby's head. in descent. And I'm thinking that usually indicates that someone's got osteopenia. And a lot of women nowadays don't realize they have osteopenia. Usually the ligaments will soften up enough during pregnancy that your pelvis will stretch even if it's not in perfect shape for the baby to descend if it's a large baby. So if you have that happen, there's two major problems. First is the rebar in the bone, which is collagen. So we recommend Collagen Max. Then we add Mountain Red Velvet. And the second issue is bone crystals. And we have the bone generator and MyCell D3, Myco D2, and full vitamin K2. The two that are most important are the full vitamin K2 for the osteoblasts to lay down new bone, and the bone crystals, the bone generator. So let's talk about that for a minute, because a lot of people think, well, I'm a young mother, I'm going to be fine, or I'm a runner and I'm an ideal weight and they look good. But in fact, they may have very bad osteopenia, and they could easily break a leg or fall down and break a wrist because their bone density is actually less, or their enamel in their teeth is thinning, and they're actually going to end up with teeth that will break really easily if they bite onto something. Thank you, Clay. An amazing program. Sorry we had some technical problems there. We will see you again live next Monday. And coming up in hour number 2, we have Ryan Frace, and your questions are welcome at 800-259-5791. Any health issue, any topic you'd like to discuss in hour 3, we're going to do an open line. Hope to have a special guest in hour number 3, but we'll work on it. 800-259-5791. Live program for your questions. Worldwide on the network. Call it 800-259-5791.